Hey guys, welcome to the Violet Nunnery podcast. Here we have Avary,
Stef, and Heather. But before we get into our discussion, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor.
Do you have skeletons in your closet? Secrets that you've been hiding deep down inside? A light that never shines through? Well, we don't have anything for that, except therapy. But we can't tackle that pesky poltergeist that keeps raiding your pantry at night. Ghost Away, now in Tropical Scents.
So today we're going to be discussing Hamlet by the brilliant William Shakespeare.
So now let's talk about someone we don't really hear about, Gertrude. Do you think she knew about the murder?
Okay, so at the beginning, I don't think that she knew about the murder. Because, why would you go along with a plan to, kill your own husband when you already have everything that you need to, have a stable life and then just throw all that away, you know?
I just think that she knew about it, but, I think she didn't want to say anything because it was going to cause a lot of, friction and uproar in the whole...
Yeah. The whole kingdom, basically.
Yeah, and she just wanted a man in her life to take care of her, and one was already gone. At that point, what else could she possibly do besides marry the brother, I guess? But yeah.
She's like, plan B. Yeah, I don't think she knew about it at first, but then I think, she got those context clues and started inferring. And she couldn't say anything about it because not only would it, like you said, Heather, cause uproar and friction, but also that would put her own well-being at risk because she was so dependent on a man.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. But I mean, that was their time.
Definitely shouldn't rely on a man.
Yeah. We know better. But I think her narcissism also played a role in this, though, because she cared so much about doing what was best for herself, and she put her needs before the needs of others, like her own son, who literally just lost his dad. What the heck? Oh, I'm a dip. Hamlet, deal with your own problems. I'm gonna go get me a man.
Skedaddle, I'm leaving. Peace out.
Poor Hamlet, literally crying in a corner. And where's Gertrude? God knows where. The other day, Heather came across King Henry VIII, which is almost identical to the love triangle between Gertrude, Old Hamlet, and Claudius, which, if you don't know, King Henry VIII married his brother's wife after his brother died, which, I don't know, sus, but it ties into that, doesn't it?
Scary resemblance.
It was, really, shocking how close it is, but...
Heather read it to us, and I was like, are you sure you're not reading Hamlet? Are you sure? Yeah.
So, not only are these two storylines or, relationships related because of their little love triangle, I think they're also related because Claudius did this out of a place of selfishness and, putting himself before others. And although King Henry he was betrothed to, what was her name? Anne of
Catherine?
Argon?
Catherine,
yes. And so he had no choice because he had to marry, the sister-in-law.
Literally.
So...
Creepy.
Gross.
But Claudius, did this out of a place of selfishness. And then later on, whenever Queen Catherine wasn't bearing any sons for King Henry VIII,
he just wanted to divorce her.
Out of a place of selfishness again. And he literally was so determined to do this. He broke off from the Catholic Church, formed his whole new religion.
He made his own church, and he did it himself.
So that he could
that is very selfish.
That
else.
Is
that's horrible.
Yeah.
And he didn't only divorce Catherine, that poor woman. He went on and had multiple wives.
Yeah, he just kept on getting married. He was like, okay, well, next one.
Yeah. He said, thank you, next, apparently.
Thank you.
He was just really determined to have a son because, back then, you needed a son to keep, your family line going. And he couldn't have they just couldn't have a son, which, I don't know, sounds like a man problem, but that's not my place to judge. Okay, guys, now that we're on the topic of people putting themselves in their own dangerous scenarios, when Laertes decided that he was going to fight Hamlet, do you think he went into it knowing there was going to be a fatal outcome?
And I'm just going to add on to that a little bit. Could this possibly mirror Ophelia's alleged suicide?
Okay, I personally think that Laertes was just so overcome with emotions, and he was just so upset with his sister's suicide and his father's sudden death that Claudius took advantage of that and caused him to just be so mad. And I think Claudius was the reason why Laertes was just so upset with everyone. And that's what I think, but what do you think, Avery?
Yeah, he was definitely taking advantage of that, like, boiling point that Laertes was at, and I think that was also, you know, a point where he could have started going crazy. Everyone was going crazy at that point.
I think that his emotions, like, he just kind of was numb to it all. He was like,
I think he was letting his emotions control him instead of the other way around. And maybe at that point, you know, it could have been like the same mindset that Ophelia had if she did actually commit suicide, because maybe he was like, you know, what the heck, I'm already mad as heck at this man, I have nothing left to lose, nothing left to offer, so if I go into this and I die, who's
at that
care?
point he's just like, it doesn't matter, like, he's just, I mean, there's nothing left, he's just there.
He had already given up mentally and physically at that point, which kind of, if you think about it, this kind of reminds me of mental health in right now in
COVID pandemic. I know what you mean.
Yeah, because everyone has struggled, whether you like to admit it or not.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, especially like at the beginning, it was really tough for some people because we were all staying in our houses. Our parents weren't letting us go out as much, and it was like really scary because nothing like this has ever happened, and we were just like,
and the world just stopped abruptly, and it was just so crazy. And
it was like nothing we've ever seen before, so everybody was just like in freak out mode.
Yeah, which I think we can kind of relate to how Laertes was feeling at an extent.
Yeah, because it was such a sudden, abrupt change that nobody was expecting.
Yeah, like Laertes didn't expect his sister's suicide and his father's death.
So. And Ophelia didn't expect, you know, her dad dying and then Hamlet leaving, Hamlet going crazy.
Yeah.
And so as this took a big toll on the characters, it reflects us how this whole pandemic
because
is taking toll.
I feel like you have people in your family that you didn't think were gonna get sick and like just die somehow, like, but I mean it happened. Like it was like everybody was normal, everybody was like safe, and then all this stuff came around and everybody's like wearing masks and like it's just different.
And we all have to find like our own ways of coping with it, and you know, some struggle more than others. And I can say personally that I've let my emotions
get the best
take control.
Okay, well, while we're on the topic of mental health, someone else that really struggled with it was Hamlet. And this kind of reminds me of Ponyboy from The Outsiders. If you've read it, you know that Ponyboy struggled a lot because his parents had just died. He was feeling alone. He kind of didn't have that fatherly figure that every teenage boy would want. And he was just struggling so much, which I would too. Like, if I lost my parents all of a sudden, I would struggle so much, which kind of just reminded me of him, you know?
I think the same thing. I think that that's a really good piece that you don't really think about.
Because Hamlet, I feel like this book was about Hamlet, but I feel like we didn't hear much about Hamlet and how he felt. And it was more focused on how everyone was fighting against everyone else, like betrayal. It was just all about that, which we never really got to understand why Hamlet felt the way he felt, which kind of is sad. And, you know, it kind of reminds me of Ponyboy, you know? That's just something that came up to my mind.
Well, I think a few times, like in Hamlet's soliloquies, that's when he was expressing how he was feeling. But I don't think he could really, like,
word it right.
Yeah, or like put his finger on it because he didn't know what he was feeling. Because back then they hadn't coined the term depression. They didn't have Pavlov and Freud and, you know,
like
all the psychological people. So I think we know more about how he was feeling than he did. And he was struggling with a lot of inner conflict and morality and right versus wrong and truth and, you know, all these things that we've discussed, and especially with the ghost and, you know, his dad dead. or his dead dad.
I don't really think they think about like depression and stuff because they didn't know what that was. They just
at the time,
yeah. But we do, and so we're just like we know what he's feeling, like you said, but
like Pony Boy, you know,
he's just confused.
Also, fun fact: The Outsiders was created in Tulsa, which I think is pretty cool.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Another thing, just how earlier we were talking about, emotions getting the best of you. I think Hamlet definitely did that a few times.
Definitely.
And even though, at first he was acting psychotic, I think it,
developed within himself.
Yeah.
As time went on, yeah.
And he didn't really even know it. He couldn't control it anymore. He couldn't contain his emotions.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like whenever, because we know what it's called whenever you're feeling sad and like stuff like depression, obviously, like you just, but
especially with the pandemic.
yeah, and
definitely.
like he doesn't know, and so it's hard for him to just like be able to fix it because he doesn't know what he's feeling.
Which is why I think him trying to kill Claudius was the breaking point of him. Like it was his breaking point, and then whenever he killed Polonius, that's whenever he screwed it up. He like really screwed it up killing Polonius because it backfired on not only him, it backfired on Claudius because that's when Claudius realized, oh shoot, Hamlet knows.
Yeah.
And because
it just caused a lot of problems.
it went just like it was kind of like a butterfly effect that happened and then something else
Boom,
happened.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to be talking a lot about Ophelia, but first, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Cassidy was looking forward to her 2-month anniversary with Chadwick. After the finishing touches of 10-karat gold jewelry and Chanel floral perfume, she heard a knock on the door. She was presented with Chadwick and a beautiful bouquet of daisies. She immediately slammed the door shut. He was utterly bewildered.
Why would you get me daisies? Do you not love me? We're breaking up.
Don't be like Chadwick. Know what your flowers represent. Blossom. Find your perfect bouquet for the perfect occasion.
Thank you to our sponsor from today, Blossom. If you ever need some flowers, just go hit them up, but be sure to get the right ones.
It's important.
So, let's talk about Ophelia. She was a pretty well-rounded child, grew up in a strict household, Catholic, and she usually did what she was told. But, she screws up one time, and she's like, shoot, the whole world is against me. So, this one sin that she made, losing her virginity to Hamlet, was like the biggest thing she could have done. So out of all of the vices that she could have committed, why was it this one? Like, I don't know, maybe she did just have this undying love for Hamlet, but was she really willing to literally risk like her life? Because wasn't it believed back then in Catholicism that you would go to hell for this?
Yeah. If you had sex before marriage, you would go to hell.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like, I think that this was, like, she had strict parents her whole life, like, all this stuff. But I think once she did something wrong, like, it felt like the end of the world to her. Because she was, like...
Yeah, because, like, Hamlet taking her virginity was probably her breaking point.
Yeah.
Not at the time, because at the time, I mean, it happened. But I feel like the effect of that really was her breaking point. Because Polonius... We saw that he wasn't the best father. He really didn't treat her with the respect that she deserved or the love that she needed, which I think affected her because she was like, oh God, my dad's going to kill me. Like, my dad's actually going to kill me.
She didn't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
She was just like, I don't want to tell anybody. Like, I'm just so...
Like, broken. Yeah.
And it was kind of setting her up for failure.
Yeah.
And then Laertes, he was a good brother. I feel like he was giving her the advice that she needed, especially like in the beginning where he was giving her advice on how Hamlet probably wasn't the best man for her, which he's a pretty accepting man, which is good, but Ophelia still needed a motherly figure.
Yeah, and I just want to know, like, out of all things, did she really just love Hamlet that much that she was willing to put it all on the line? Because remember, like, back then, that was her virginity was the only thing she had to offer.
Like, it was the holiest thing in the world at the time.
It's all she had to bring to the table. And, when you shatter that plate, you're done. You are dismissed. Go to your room.
Yeah.
adding on to what I said earlier about Ophelia not having a motherly figure, what would have changed about Ophelia if she had that motherly figure in her life? Like, would her purity still be the same? Would her mental health be better? What do you guys think?
I think, yeah, definitely, because, like, my mom, she does a lot for me. Like, I can talk to her about things that I cannot talk to, like, a man about, or, like, my dad. It's just, like, not the same.
Yeah, I think they definitely, like, provide a sense of security, especially since it's, like, a woman-to-woman type thing.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think Ophelia could have had a more stable mentality if she did have a mother around, because it probably would have been easier for her to approach her mother about her purity, and she would have been provided with a lot better guidance than this, like, dad trying to, do whatever he thought was good.
Because I'm just going to be honest, like, men are different than women.
Yeah.
Like, a woman talking to a woman and a man talking to a woman is, like, completely different.
Because they're on total wavelengths, and like, they have totally different ways of thinking, like different chemical makeup in their brain.
Yeah. Every daughter needs a mother as her best friend, in a sense, because Ophelia, you could really tell how her not having a mother really did affect her mental health, because, I mean, look at Gertrude. She wasn't there for Hamlet, and I think if old Hamlet was still around, I think Hamlet's mental health would have been 10 times better. No, 100 times better.
Yeah.
Which I think adds on to Ophelia having a mother, because Ophelia's mental health would have been much better, and I think every girl needs a mom in their life.
Yeah.
Or at least a motherly figure, and I think Ophelia lacked that, which sucks.
I also think that if Ophelia had a mom, it would have been, much more approachable. Like I said earlier, she wouldn't have been as judgmental towards her, because she would have understood her so much more. She would have been more empathetic towards her, instead of literally just all these men being like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you did this wrong, do this better.
And, like, a mom has been through the same thing as you, because you're going, like, you're a woman too, so, like, it's the same
because
thing.
the mom grows up knowing how the daughter feels, because the mom goes through the same thing that the child goes through.
And this is also a crucial time period where she needs a mother, because she's going through all of these changes. And there's so much happening.
I know, poor Ophelia, she's been through so much. The definition of deserved better.
Exactly.
Right there. Yep. Okay, well, I think this was a really productive discussion. I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
This is Steph,
Avary,
and Heather.
and this was The Violet Nunnery.